The wind came in sheets across Port Adak, clawing at the clapboard walls of the decommissioned weather station where the Harpoon Island Amateur Radio Club met every Thursday. On the mainland, the first week of November was early winter. On Harpoon it was already polar night. 300 people lived on the treeless volcanic rock, and almost everyone had the cranky sing-song rhythm of the VHF Marine Band playing in the background of their houses. That night, though, the airwaves felt vacant. Even the fishing trawlers had tied up because the barometer was plunging toward a whiteout. Inside, 4 operators hunched over equipment salvaged from decades of government projects, army green transceivers, dented oscilloscopes and antennas cobbled together from ski poles. Lena Chu, call sign KL7LC, adjusted the gain on the Kenwood TS590 and tried to ignore the draft coming through the window frame. Noah Transky, a retired Coast Guard radio man whose beard reached the collar of his parka, penciled notes in a spiral pad. 18-year-old Mike Taguchi typed call signs into a logging program, and Victor Panicchio, at 72, still mended nets all day, stood by the stove, sipping percolator coffee. At 2200 hours, between bursts of static on the 40-meter band, Lena heard it. Dia-dit-dit-dit-dit, dia-dit-dit-dit, Morse. She straightened her headphones. The signal was faint, warbling with atmospheric flutter, but unmistakably human. "Someone's out there," she said. Noah turned a knob on a second receiver, lining up to the same frequency. "You're on 7.123 megahertz?" "Yeah. Aziz from Barrows said he'd try to catch us later, but that's not his fist." She scribbled characters. Dot, dot, slash, dot, slash, slash, dot, dot, slash, dot, dot, dot. "Oh, dear, Victor murmured, leaning over. La queue du grain whatever. Doesn't make sense." "Hold on," Lena said. The next block of code spilled out. Dot, nope, /apos, /bride, /process, /process-apos. "A bride?" Mike's fingers hovered above his keyboard. "We're the Ice Bride." A chill that had nothing to do with the faulty heater slid down Lena's spine. She knew those words. They came from a folk ballad that had been illegal to broadcast in Alaska since 1993, The Icebound Bride. The last line of the stanza was supposed to be, "Where the icebound bride weeps to the sea, let never a lover follow me." The song had been implicated, at least in rumor, in the disappearance of singer Ellison Ellie Carver and her fiancé, Deck Officer Caleb Bright, back in 1982. The couple had vanished on their way to tour the Aleutians, and every wannabe ghost hunter blamed the ballad, saying it carried a curse. The state legislature, facing election year hysteria, voted to prohibit the song's public performance, a law that technically was still on the books, though ignored by everyone under 50. Lena swallowed. "It's the Carver lyrics. In Morse." Victor pulled the fur hood off his head. "That's impossible. Nobody's sung that song around here in 30 years. "Not sung," Noah corrected, eyes narrowing. "Keyed." The next transmission block ended with 3 rapid repetitions of SOS. "Distress call," Mike said, voice cracking. Lena keyed her paddle. "Unidentified station 400 kilohertz up. This is KL7LC listening. Please provide nature of emergency and position. Over." No answer. Just the spectral whoosh of auroral hiss. They waited 10 minutes. The signal repeated identical, down to the slight stutter in the 5th character processing. Not a live operator. "A loop," Noah said. "Probably on automatic Kia. Could be a shipwreck's emergency beacon miswired through a Kia," Mike suggested. "Except for the ancient folk lyrics," Lena replied. "That beacon wants to be recognized." Victor nodded toward the map pinned beside the stove. The Aleutian chain like a crooked spine, their own island a mere grain of pumice amid gunmetal water. "You can triangulate?" "Maybe," Noah said. "I'll call Seth over at the FAA radar on Shemya. 2 bearings give us a fix." Lena filed a reception report with the Anchorage Coast Guard station. The watchstander confirmed no EpiPerp signals in their sector and promised to search again, but with the storm the Jayhawk helicopter wouldn't launch until morning. That left the four of them staring at one another, the coded refrain still clicking through the speaker every 15 minutes. "Somebody left that playing wanting to be found," Lena said. "We're the only ones listening." "The lyrics might be a cipher," Noah mused. "May else broadcast a banned verse." Mike opened a browser on his laptop, slowed through the island satellite link and pulled up news archives. Ellie Carver disappeared off the cruise liner Northern Gale, right? Coast Guard found an empty skiff near Lawns Reef. No bodies, he scrawled. There was a smuggling theory opiate precursors hidden in the stage piano, but nothing proven. Caleb Bright's family kept it alive, Victor added quietly. "I worked offloading that liner in Dutch Harbor back in '82. Heard all the rumors. One thing stuck. Their radio logbook vanished too." Lena looked at the blank midnight window, hearing snow spatter against glass. If somebody knew what happened, they might have planted a time-delayed SOS. Or someone found wreckage and wants to open the case without signing their name. The FAA returned Noah's call with a bearing, 96 degrees true from Shemya. Their own rough fox hunt with a handheld Yagi put the signal at 120 from Harpoon. The intersection lay inside a 5-mile polygon east of Ragged Point, the freakish knife edge of lava cliffs that jutted from their island. Mike zoomed the digital chart. No houses, no service roads, just the old seal rookery and sea caves. Victor began lacing his waterproof boots. "We can snowmobile to the bluffs, hike down." "The Coast Guard said hold tight," Noah reminded. But he too was grabbing his cold-weather radio pack. Lena understood. Men like Noah spent decades answering maydays. Waiting from the comfort of a heated hut felt worse than risking frostbite. Lena texted her partner, Marisol, a paramedic on call. "Going out to chase weird beacon. If we're not back by dawn, call Anchorage CG." She left a kiss emoji, then jammed her phone in an inner pocket. By 2300 they were outside, loading 2 snowmobiles with rope, flares, and a portable VHF set. The town's sodium lights glowed diffused orange through blowing snow, but beyond the last fuel drum everything turned to night. Lena rode pillion behind Noah. Mike and Victor shared the second sled. The engines screamed, treads clawing through crusted drifts, and the 4 headlamps forged moving tunnels of light. They reached Ragged Point 40 minutes later. Wind off the Bering Sea tried to shear them into the abyss, but the cliffs rose like ramparts, shielding 30 feet of ledge where they parked. The Morse signal was louder here, audible without headphones on Lena's handheld rig, sending strength S7 rock steady. Below us, Noah concluded, maybe sea level. Victor found an old climber's stake hammered into basalt. Survivors of some long-gone tourist route. They roped together, descended the switchback path where red lichen made the rocks look blood-stained. Salt spray crystallized on their eyelashes. Midway down, Lena saw a faint green glimmer in a cleft, a glow stick wedged between rocks. Mike whispered, "Someone left breadcrumbs." They followed a line of markers into a wave-carved grotto just above the tide line. Inside, the roar of surf reverberated like the breath of machinery. Their headlamps probed darkness. Driftwood, fish skeletons, and halfway back, a metal ammo can wired to a telescoping mast. A coax cable led to a compact HF transmitter powered by a marine battery. The Kia's LED flashed as it spelled again. "LAQ2 Grande where the Ice Bride weeps to sea. SOSSS." Lena knelt. The battery sticker read, "Manufactured 5/21. Less than 2 years old. She scanned for footprints, but the cave floor was rock. Whoever built the beacon knew radio, knew that 40 meters bounced nicely after dark, and they chose a lyric certain hams would recognize. Victor's lamp swept across a shelf of pumice. He froze. "You need to see this." A fissure in the cave wall had collapsed recently, exposing a second chamber whose entrance was half full of wind-blown snow. Just inside, a human skeleton sat propped against the rock, knees drawn to the chest as if hugging cold. Tattered wool remained on the bones, and plastic buttons littered the floor, marked NN, Northern Gale. Mike gagged. "Bright?" he asked, voice thin. Noah knelt to photograph the remains with his phone, hands steady. "Could be. We'll let the medical examiner decide, but the timeline fits." Near the skeleton lay an aluminium lockbox. Lena's crowbar made short work of the corroded latch. Inside sat a cassette tape labelled in blue ink. Ellison Frinnell set. A Polaroid photo of Ellie Carver wearing a parka was taped to the shell. Her smile looked forced. Behind her stretched ship rail and endless sea. They carried everything to the ledge above high tide, set a tarp, and took stock. The wind rose, flinging grit. Lena checked her watch. 1:10. Snowmobiles were half a mile uphill. Extraction by Coast Guard. Morning at best. "We log coordinates," Noah said. "Secure the site, leave the body undisturbed, but the tape, we take that now." "I've got Marisol's old Walkman in her ambulance kit," Lena remembered. She retrieved it from Noah's pack, popped fresh batteries, and pressed play. First came hiss, then a woman's voice, hoarse but melodic. "If anything happens to me, Mama, make them listen. This is Ellie." The next minutes were part diary, part lullaby. Ellie explained how cruise line executives were running a smuggling pipeline, shipping precursor chemicals, laundering cash through fake concert tickets. Caleb Bright had gathered evidence, planned to present it to the Coast Guard when they reached Dutch Harbour. Someone aboard realized it. The couple hid in a maintenance void, recording testimony in case they vanished. The cassette ended with Ellie humming "The Icebound Bride," her voice breaking. Static. Click. Victor wiped tears. "They murdered them, dumped them overboard or left them to freeze. Or sealed them in here," Lena said. She stared back toward the corpse, imagining a younger man clawing at rock while storm seas boomed outside and the corporate world sailed on, cocktails clinking. Mike looked at the beacon. Somebody else must have found the chamber and set up that transmitter, trying to get justice. Or cover tracks, Noah countered. Maybe they planned to retrieve the evidence later and got spooked. Either way, Dawnlight would bring helicopters and investigators. For now, they kept watch in shifts, huddled inside bivvy sacks. The beacon clicked every quarter hour, like a mechanical heartbeat. Clouds shredded in magenta sunrise at 9:30. The storm eased enough for a Jayhawk to thunder overhead, rotors slapping brittle air. Lena held an orange panel against the cliff, signaling. Lines dropped. 2 rescue swimmers descended, followed by a stainless steel stretcher. Within the hour, state troopers arrived by cutter. The cave became a crime scene, swarming with Tyvek suits. Trooper Sergeant Ely, cheeks wind-burned raw, interviewed the 4 hams at the cliff top. "You saying you decoded the lyrics first? Show me your copy." Lena handed over her notebook filled with dots and dashes. Ely scanned it, tapping the margin. "Understand our lab will check the tape for authenticity. If it's real, you folks stumbled into evidence for a whole different level of prosecution." Noah inclined his head. "Our part ends where the experts begin, Sergeant." But it didn't. Over the next weeks, Anchorage detectives asked follow-up questions. The beacon battery was traceable to a mail-order purchase, shipped to an address in Ketchikan linked to Walter Royce, former entertainment director of the Northern Gale and one of the last people to see Ellie alive. Royce was found dead of apparent suicide 2 days after the cave discovery hit the news. His note blank, except for the first verse of The Icebound Bride. Labs confirmed the skeleton was Caleb Bright. Dental matches a gold ring engraved CB+E. He had died of blunt force trauma. Ellie's fate remained unknown, though investigators believed she drowned or was disposed of at sea. The cassette, despite age, provided admissible evidence. Prosecutors reopened the smuggling case, now focusing on the defunct cruise line's parent conglomerate. Subpoenas flowed like meltwater. On Harpoon, the amateur radio club found itself briefly famous. Reporters flew in during the 3-hour clear day, snapping photos of Lena pointing a Yagi at the horizon. Victor became an unwilling soundbite for documentary crews. Mike started a podcast called Freakish Fist, explaining Morse to Generation Z. What lingered for Lena, though, was the night itself. Headphones pressing cold ears, that frail stream of dots and dashes resurrecting a lost voice. Radio, she realized, was time travel. The timelines parted for you. Until a lost voice. Lost? The ionosphere carried ghosts. January. A violet dusk settled over sea ice when an unmarked parcel arrived at Lena's P.O. box. Inside lay an old straight-key telegraph paddle, brass-polished, mounted on teak. A note typed on station letterhead read, "Your vigilance gave her song a witness. Keep listening." No signature. She brought the key to club night. The others passed it hand to hand, weighing unspoken thoughts. Noah finally said, "Ellie hoped someone someday would care." He connected the key to their transmitter, tapped out the universal greeting. Now everyone's listening. Victor set the key on their operating table, a permanent fixture. Let it stand for the missing. After they locked up, Lena walked home along the frozen boardwalk. Above, curtains of green aurora rippled somewhere. Ions bounced signals across half a planet, carrying songs that laws couldn't silence, carrying pleas that patiently awaited an ear. She imagined Ellie's last humming note climbing skyward, refracted again and again, until, in some other storm, another amateur tuned across the band and recognized the pulse of a human story trying to survive. Lena smiled into the wind and tightened her scarf. She would keep listening.